Before I cover your junior and senior year at Roosevelt, I want to talk to you about the pressures of being a basketball player at EC Roosevelt with our tradition that was already made with, of course, the Jim Bradleys and so on. So kind of give us some feedback on that.
Well, you really, I always tell people you really have to be there to understand. It was a legacy at East Chicago Roosevelt at the time, and most people don't understand that as being a legacy. When we first came in as a freshman, and you walk through the Hall of Fame and you see all these famous people, but you not never got the opportunity to see them play one time. But you would hear the rumors from Coach Zawacki and Coach Holzback, saying, stating all those guys were great players. Uh, the pressures, I wouldn't say there were pressures at that time because you wouldn't understand. You didn't understand, rather because you didn't have the chance to really get a chance to see those guys play. Um, and until the time you get a chance to see the history and see all the accomplishments they had, accolades they had during the time, you respect everything they accomplished, everything that they did. Um, I think the only pressure you would have had at that time growing up in East Chicago, Roosevelt, is just being able to perform, knowing that the people before you had a lot of successes. The people before you, they were performing at very high standards. So that was the only pressure to keep that legacy going, to continue that legacy, to make people see, wow, Roosevelt is always competing to be a state title, always a contender for the regional, the sectional. So that was the only pressure I would say, because with like Arthur and after reviewing, after looking over your footage with him, the pressure he had with his sister, following his sister footsteps, but we all had the pressure of being keeping that name, East Chicago Roosevelt, competitive, just being competitive. We are who we are. Uh, and I mean, the only pressure for me was just being able to compete at that level and continue to win and keep that legacy going. I don't think we ever lost more than 18 games a year. We were always winning. It was always a winning tradition at that program.
Gotcha. Now you're a junior, and now it's time for big time basketball. You played the sophomore, but now you one of the featured guys on this team. Give us a little feedback on your junior season.
Oh my God! It's really funny though, because at the time Tony Harris was man, he was the star. We had several players we anticipated coming back, and we had lost for various reasons, for academic issues, for transfers, whatever. Some guys had moved and relocated, but at that time, my junior year was a year where I had to, Tony Harris was out. Uh, he had some things going on at that time, but however, Tony ended up coming back, and it was such a relief because we were so young at the time, with me, Al Taylor, Robbie Brundage. We had a lot of young guys on our team, Will Dawson, who was seniors, but they didn't get a whole lot of playing time the following year as juniors. So it was young. We were young and experienced at the time, but uh, I was Fish. Jerome Battle was gone at the time, and it was all on me. So I think our first game, I think I did it like 18 points, 19 points, or something like that, and I could not wait. We had just got blew out in the tournament by Washington, and we lost to Washington by about 40.
Uh-oh.
And,
40 points?
30 or 40 points at the time, and without Tony Harris though,
Okay.
and it was I think everybody, we were looking for that leadership. We didn't have it at the time, so I had to grow up fast. And I was appointed one of the captains at the time. Uh, with Tony being dismissed, I had to grow up fast. And when Tony came back, we had a very good 1-2 punch. Tony was averaging about 26, 27 a game as a senior, and I was averaging about 15, about 10 boards a game. But it was a very trying time at that time. We ended up losing in the sectionals on the last second shot. Uh, and I'm sure you've heard that even with your footage with
Ike Washington.
Ike Washington. But again, Ike was a good player. Ike was a very good player, and I think if that wouldn't have happened, I think he wouldn't be who he is today. He's an upstanding guy and a very sound basketball player. I think that moment, sometimes that defining moment defines who you are later in life. And Ike is an exceptional ball player because of that. People do laugh about it, but over that period, I think that made him who he is today. But for the most part, we all grew up. Ike was young, I was young, we were all young, looking for leadership on that team that year in 1985 with Tony and Will Dawson, May Harris. And those guys were, they were young. We were all young, and I still say that, we end up losing in the sectionals on last second shot, which we should have won the game. But everything happens for a reason, and we end up being a lot better the following year because of that.